Hey there! Before we get into the episode, I wanted to make sure that you've grabbed our free wedding planning resources that I made specifically to help guide you through the overwhelming details of planning a wedding. Head over to planningcollective.com/free-guides and sign up for totally free resources on expensive wedding planning mistakes, the first 4 things every engaged couple needs to do, a full backyard wedding or unique venue wedding planner, and our pre-wedding worksheets that every couple needs. All 4 of these downloads are currently available, and we're working on some more fun and, of course, free resources coming your way soon. Again, you can find all of them at planningcollective.com under the Free Guides tab. See you there. Hi there, I'm Kate McClellan, and I've been a professional wedding planner for 20 years now. I started Planning Collective when I noticed that though most couples are super excited about being engaged, they quickly feel overwhelmed and intimidated by the actual process of planning a wedding. If left unchecked, this can lead to massive burnout and the urge to scrap all your plans and just elope. While this is totally normal, you don't have to sacrifice your sanity for your dream wedding. In the Planning Collective podcast, I'm going to share the processes, tips, and tools that engaged couples like you need to feel confident, supported, and excited about your wedding plans again. Let's get started. Hey guys, Kate here. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Planning Collective podcast. Today, I'd like to talk about a very misunderstood title or phrase in the wedding industry, and that is day of coordination. This phrase is the common title for a limited service offered by a wedding planner that's aimed to help couples that have been doing the majority of the planning on their own, but they know they need someone to help essentially run the show on the wedding day. In episode 14, I broke down the different levels of wedding planner services, and we spoke a bit about the difference between an independent planner, which is the role I play, and a planner that comes with your venue. As a quick summary, most independent or non-venue planners offer about 3 to 4 levels of services, and they range from day of coordination to full service planning, with usually 1 or 2 levels of some type of partial planning that falls in between the two. As I like to explain it, day of coordination is my base offering, full service planning is the highest offering, and partial planning is going to fall somewhere in the middle, depending on how much help the couple's looking for. In the past, working with a wedding planner meant that you'd have such hefty fees that it essentially ruled it out for most couples. However, over the last 10 to 15 years, day of coordination has become much more popular, and it can really be such a life changer when it comes to your ability to enjoy the wedding day. But the title is horribly deceiving, and many planners actually refuse to call it day of coordination, instead referring to it as month of coordination or event management services. This episode was actually inspired by a post I saw in a group from a bride saying that she was told that day of coordination doesn't actually exist, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to explain. Let's start with the misconception of what day of coordination is. Most couples assume, like the title implies, that this is someone that is just there the day of the wedding to help manage the vendors arriving and the flow of the day, and maybe set up some personal details like your place cards, favors, signs, etc. Many think it's about 8 to 10 hours in and out, and somehow magically this day of coordinator is able to cast aside any issues that might pop up. And that's where the problem comes in. I'm very confident in saying that there is no professional wedding planner that is going to just show up on the wedding day and be comfortable running the event. Most of our work is done in the 20 or more hours of prep time that it takes to catch up on the wedding plans, create or update your timeline, and connect with the vendors about the details. A planner that agrees to skip all this prep is telling you that they are okay with showing up unprepared, and that is a huge red flag. So what really is day of coordination? I'd love to give you a quick rundown of how I structure our services, which I think is pretty comparable for most other planners. Now, I still opt to call my package day of coordination, but I know many planner friends in the industry, again, call it something like day of management, wedding day management, or month of coordination. One isn't necessarily better than the other. It's just a decision that each planner has to make and what they want to call it. Either way, they all typically start with some version of what I call our details meeting, and that happens about 6 to 8 weeks before the wedding. In my details meeting, I have a workbook that goes through the entire wedding day, and it's designed to help catch me up on all of the plans you've been working on. It typically takes a couple of hours, but it's an amazing brain dump of everything wedding related. We go through everything from the breakfast plans for the wedding party on the morning of to the way that you want the napkins folded at dinner. There really is no detail that we don't discuss. We start or adjust your wedding day timeline, we talk layouts, and we go over all the items that you'll be bringing in for us to set up on the wedding day. We end the meeting with a final to-do list or a homework list for the couple leading up to the wedding day. And this is why we really do this at about the 2-month mark. If we had this meeting much earlier than that, there would just be too much up in the air and it would be hard to be productive. However, if we wait until the last week or two before the wedding, it doesn't give us much of a chance to make any adjustments or changes that are needed, to communicate properly with the vendors, or if we discover something's been missed or overlooked, if we have 2 months to go, there's plenty of time to make adjustments. After this meeting, we take the next few weeks to connect with the rest of your vendors. I often say our role as day of coordinators is essentially the same as the team captain of your vendor team. We're certainly not going to try and tell the photographer how to take the best pictures or try to make adjustments to the chef's recipe, but we are going to make sure that they have all of the tools and resources they need in advance of the wedding day to make sure they can focus on what their area of expertise is. Our first step is typically connecting with the photo and video team to make sure that our timeline gives them the time that they need for photos, or we can make adjustments as needed. We work with all the vendors that are bringing in supplies to create a load-in and load-out schedule with the venue and make sure to review any open items or questions that we had for them after our details meeting. We also continuously follow up with the couple about the details that they're working on, and in some cases, we do site visits with them to walk through the space or discuss other setup items. The amount of time spent doing these confirmations obviously varies depending on the scope of the event, but it can be around 20 to 30 hours of prep. And this is why so many planners don't like the title Day of Coordination, as it really diminishes all the work that's put into making sure the wedding runs smoothly. And if you find a planner saying that they'll show up without putting in this work, there's a high chance that they will not be prepared on your wedding day, which defeats much of the purpose of working with a planner to begin with. When it comes to the wedding weekend itself, I always include the ceremony rehearsal with our day of clients, even if they have a church or ceremony coordinator included with the venue. Even if we're not the ones running the actual rehearsal, this is typically the time where we can get all of your setup items for the next day, go over any last-minute adjustments to the timeline, or go through any final reminders with the couple, parents, and wedding party. And if the ceremony is at a location that does not have an on-site coordinator, then your day of coordinator should be the one taking the lead of getting everyone lined up, cueing the musicians or DJ, and sending everyone down the aisle on time. The 30 minutes or so before the ceremony begins is naturally a chaotic time. All of your guests are starting to arrive, the wedding party is doing their final prep and asking last-minute questions, and all the vendors are putting together the final touches. If you don't have a point person to handle all of this, these questions will fall on your shoulders, which would be beyond stressful. One thing I might try to do this upcoming wedding season is try to track how many questions were asked on the average wedding day, whether it be from the couple, family, the wedding party, vendors, or guests. I'm guessing that it's probably in the hundreds. And if you've ever been in a stressful situation, whether it's positive or negative stress, you know even the simplest questions can cause even more anxiety. And for this reason alone, it's super important to have a point person on your wedding day fielding those questions for you. Ideally, someone that has a lot of experience in the wedding industry. Of course, we can't shield you from all of the questions, but if we can take 90% of the unnecessary chatter off your plate, That's going to make a huge difference in your ability to enjoy the wedding day. Okay, on the wedding day itself, planners' packages typically range from 8 to 12 hours. Some planners do offer unlimited hours for the day. I found that 10 hours typically works for most couples, so that's where we start with coverage from myself and an assistant. We base our arrival time on the time the venue allows us to begin setting up, making sure that we're on site when everyone is arriving in case anything goes off plan or the wrong items are delivered. Unless there's an extreme amount of teardown at the end of the night that the couple's responsible for, we typically leave with the photographer about 30 to 45 minutes after the dance floor is open, and I always leave the maid of honor or another point person with an end of the night checklist if we're not on site through the very end. So if you've been thinking of including a day of coordinator on your team, I highly recommend it, obviously. However, if you really are just looking for someone to help set up your decor items, that's likely not going to be handled by a coordinator. Instead, I would recommend that you talk to your florist, your venue, or even your caterer to see if they know anyone that can help with the basic setup details. If all this sounds like exactly what you're looking for, please reach out and I can check your date for our availability. My email is kate@planningcollective.com, or you can send a note via the website planningcollective.com. I personally love working with couples as their day of coordinator. It really allows us to work with more couples on any given season than if we were to just do partial or full service planning, which takes up so much more of our time. We do have a couple of 2024 dates left, and we're starting to book more into 2025 and even 2026, if you can believe it. If you mention that you listen to this podcast, I will happily take 10% off the day of services. And one additional benefit that I didn't even mention is that our clients all have access to the Planning Collective membership to help further support you through the planning process. So if we're helping you with day of coordination, you will also have access to all of the wedding planning blueprint course, the templates, and the office hours that are included in the membership. You can find more information on that over at planningcollective.com. All right, now I want to hear from you. Are you planning on having a day of coordinator? Still confused about the myth of what our role includes? Head over to the Wedding Planning Collective Facebook group or message me at kate@planningcollective.com. And if you found this episode helpful, could you take a quick minute to rate and give me a review? It would mean so much to me, and it will help other couples get the wedding planning help they need. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.